For listeners who may not be familiar, what do we mean by a contingent workforce, Sue?
Well, I try to keep it quite simple, Craig, and a contingent workforce is a part of an organisation's workforce that are not employees.
Right, okay. Why is it often described as the invisible workforce inside organisations?
It's a great terminology and I use it a lot. The reason is because they're not visible on any payroll, they're not invisible on your HR systems, and often they're not on org charts. So the workforce that we're talking about is growing, and the fact that they're invisible makes it quite concerning for companies that they genuinely don't know who's working for them at any point in time.
So what kinds of risks or blind spots do you see most often in how companies manage contingent workers?
Well, there are many risks and blind spots in this whole world of non-employees or contingent workers, particularly because of the lack of visibility, not knowing exactly who's working for a business, who might have site access, who might need required certifications or qualifications, if they're trading as company contractors, their insurances or lack thereof. So the risk exposure can be quite broad and vast for companies, and with that lack of visibility of who those humans are doing work, it's really quite a minefield.
Yeah. Well, everyone loves a real world example. So can you give me an example of a company or companies where the contingent workforce issues were costing them more than they realised?
I would go as far to say, Craig, that every company that has contingent workers is overspending on that workforce. And I don't mean the wages or the day rates or the rates that the actual people are being paid, but the types of ways that companies engage their workforce that are not employees are quite vast. From staffing or labour hire companies, payrolling companies or employees of record, independent consultants and contractors, and then service providers and vendors. And often the rates and the pay is relatively similar, but the margins and the way that contracts are constructed are quite different in all of those categories of non-employee workers.
How does poor management of contingent workers affect not only cost, but compliance and employee experience?
So from a compliance perspective, visibility is key. And often companies don't know who are working for them, so therefore they have no way of understanding the right to work, whether someone has the rights to work in any environment to start with, whether or not they have insurance coverage, whether or not they're paying awards or fair work, fair pay.
Right.
There's a range of compliance perspectives around site access or building access or security access. Companies often hand out laptops and site passes, and they don't take them back often too. So the non-employees are often scattered, so it's quite difficult for companies to try and understand how to capture that. From a brand perspective and an experience perspective, I actually think that's moving more positively these days. Craig, I've been in the industry a long time, and I used to see days where contractors had a different colour badge. Right. Because they wanted to be considered and known to be non-employees, which is just awful. But I think that companies know that they've got to access skills and capability and talent in many ways now. So I actually think the experience for a contractor or a non-employee is on the rise, which is great.
Yeah, I think that even, the fact that tenure or, average tenure has come down for permanent employees, that they need to treat contingent workers exactly the same way, because you're looking to engage and keep them there for the length of work. And quite often, as well as I do, that contingent workers are extended, that whatever contract, every statement of work they have, they're often extended. So you want to keep them engaged in the business as well. Yeah,
most definitely. And if you think of the generational differences in the workforce today and the choices that people have around how they'd like to work, there's nothing better than an experienced executive or senior professional wanting to wind down their career and work as an advisor or as a consultant. As much as different generations have got a patchwork of skills and a patchwork of roles these days too, so you've got to be open to how to engage different types of workers in different ways.
Okay, so tell us about a recent project where you helped a client get visibility and control over their contingent workforce.
So we've been working with a large known brand in Australia for about 18 months now. So the original introduction took place when they had selected their vendor management system, so their technology to manage the end-to-end of their contingent workforce. And at that point in time, they didn't have an internal contingent workforce team, nor did they have an MSP provider. It was very clear from the outset that this particular client did not want to go to market and bring an MSP in place. So we've been working with them through their maturity curves for the last 18 months to support their internal capability build on the contingent workforce team, to configure and continue to reconfigure and adapt the vendor management system they have in place and integrate that through to full payment of invoices and vendor processing, which is excellent. And now the next phase on that journey with them is to roll in all of their non-employees, of which there are thousands of workers. So we're pretty excited about the next, I would say the next 12 months working together, where we will support them to mature their contingent workforce strategy and operating model to capture everyone that's not an employee working for them, which is pretty exciting. And it's groundbreaking because not many companies are doing this very well at all.
You've been partnering with them for a while. So what results have you seen so far?
I think first and foremost is visibility and clarity of who their non-employee categories are. So labour, hire, contractors, traditional contractors and payrolling, that went first. So we've supported them to bring that all into their contractor program. And then beyond that, we're now getting visibility of everyone else that works for the company that isn't employed by them. So that helps make better decisions around who to contract with, who to partner with for supply, what is a master service or master supply agreement versus a individual contractor agreement, and also understanding now that the world of independent contracting, the barriers to entry are very low. An independent consultant could set up a proprietary limited company overnight, but knowing that company has insurance protections and is a bona fide business to trade with is often not clear. So we will start to get visibility all of that with the client as well. And of course we're working with procurement as well as HR, which I just love, because without those two executive overview, the program won't be successful, because as we know, whilst companies see contractors as a category of worker, they're humans. So HR and procurement working together is really very important.
And it's interesting because, we're talking about contingent workforce here. In the traditional workforce, there's not so much procurement working with HR, so it's really interesting here and the differences.
Oh, yeah, I think it's it has to happen for the future. It has to happen now, actually, Craig, not just for the future, but it's the work that we do. If we are not working with the HR executive and the procurement executive, success will not be easy. So that's really important as a way forward for us in the work that we do.
So tell us about a recent project where you've helped a client gain visibility and control over their contingent workforce.
We've had a great one, Craig, in the last 18 months, working with a large energy company here in Australia, and they have hundreds and hundreds of non-employees working for them every day. They had a very clear strategy of to outsource to a managed service provider or an MSP, but they really didn't know how to go about doing that. So we started working with the category manager and the chief procurement officer to build out what we thought would be a business case for 2 years, and ended up being 5 years.
Wow.
Because of the size and the scale of the workforce, the complexity, the geographical disbursement, the horizon of change was quite large or quite long. So to build out a 2-year business case just kind of really didn't give it justice and didn't have the maturity horizon that was needed. So I guess in essence what we did, we brought our expertise to the table to help them select post-business case who were the potential partners they could go to market and test with. So we supported them to design the RFP for the MSP. A part of that also included the RFP for the vendor management system, which we advised at that point in time to contract separately to the MSP. Possibly not what MSP providers like to hear, but realistically technology ownership from a contractual perspective, particularly when we're talking about enterprise tech, we would often advise that needs to be direct with the end user. So a combined go-to-market for 2 RFPs. And then we work through the assessment and selection of both MSP and VMS partner who've been down selected now, and implementation will kick off shortly.
You talk about a sort of a lack of visibility over the contingent workforce in enterprise companies, and I'm assuming the bigger the company, the more of a issue they may have. So this going in to work on what might be an 18-month project and pushing out to 5 years, it must be that the businesses really need support in this area.
Yeah, they do, and we set that up from sort of day dot as an expectation. So we haven't been working with this company non-stop for 18 months. So I don't think that's the right thing to do, to be honest. It's we work with the business to help them through the stages of planning and change that are needed, so the discovery and design phases, and often we need to come back in and support as they go through those major shifts of change as well. Which I think is the beauty of the work that we do is that our companies or clients we work with respect the capability we bring, but they're not reliant upon us to be successful either, so we build their muscle for them when we're working with them too.
Is it fair to say that most clients you go and work with, when you start the discovery phase, that you discover together more than what you thought was going to be there, or maybe more than what they thought was going to be there?
My team and I, we don't find anything uniquely new per se. The combination of complexity or risk or mess, we call it, differs. Most definitely clients do not know what to expect and what we will then surface for them, without a doubt in my mind. But they also are looking for completeness, and they want everything. Most clients that we start with, they want more information than is actually necessary to start.
So, Sue, when you first go into a business, a large business, and you're working in the discovery phase, is it often the case that you find more than what the business originally thought you would?
We firstly, we don't often find new things in our eyes. It's just a combination of the complexities and the issues and risks that we uncover as we go through discovery. We definitely find more than the client's expecting. But it's interesting because when we start the journey, that often clients are wanting 100% clarity, and you're never going to get that from, even once a program's designed and implemented. So we'll start by exploring spend data, security information, site pass information, so we can start to pull various data points together to understand the size and scale of their workforce. Craig, whether there's 100 workers, 1,000 workers or 10,000 workers, the challenges are still the same, because we're talking about similar engagement or lack of engagement of these worker types. So we find all sorts when we work with our clients.
So with technology and workforce models evolving, how do you see the role of contingent work changing in the next few years?
Well, I think there's two chains of thought on this one, or views on this. The first one is the way in which work gets done is changing, as we know, right? So automation of tasks, remoulding of roles and so on. So firstly, the way in which humans will do work is going to change because of automation and technology. So that's number one. Number two means that because there's flexibility and change in how work gets done, people will choose to do work differently and engage differently. So there's a definite rise in the demand of non-employees expecting to work in the way that they choose. I've always been an advocate of work is what you do, not where you are. But work how you do is different now as well. So, there's patchwork careers, there's portfolio careers and portfolio work. And I do think that companies are struggling with how to access skills in a way from humans and contract with them differently. So I think that it's a challenge for businesses, but an exciting opportunity as well.
If an executive is listening and thinks we don't have this under control at all, where should they start, Sue?
I think they need to start within their own head, because if they think they don't have it under control, the likelihood is they actually don't. So number one, if that's your original thought, chances are it's true. I think that there's two ways to move forward. One is to understand from if you have a HR executive or a chief people officer, or if you're not that big, you might have a COO. Whatever your executive structure is, ask with a few simple questions around, do we know how many humans work for us in our organisation? And if you can't answer that within a 10% tolerance of what you think is reasonable, there's a problem and you need to move forward. And again, that will depend upon your business and your org structure. But you would start to work with your CFO, your chief people officer, your head of procurement to start to have those discussions discussions. And then hopefully they'll put a call into someone like myself or someone in the industry that actually genuinely understands the nature of work when it comes to contingent models and contingent operations. I do get a little bit concerned and frustrated at times when I come in behind other businesses or other teams that have tried to crack this. We are not, the shining star of everything in the industry, but I'm really proud that we've got deep expertise in contingent, and I genuinely love to partner with businesses to take them on that journey.